Hello, everyone. Yes, for some odd reason, I'm wearing a white shirt, but that's okay because I'm joined with a new friend. His name is Gord, and he is part of Edmonton Greek mythology death metal band. I want to say death power, kind of a mix.
Death metal, melodic death metal.
Block death metal. We're joined with Gord. He's from Tides of Kharon, and I don't know why, but everyone I've told your band name to started giggling.
Yeah, we get that from time to time. Karen, the word Karen has kind of taken on an ulterior meaning here. So until they see how it's spelled and realize it's the reference to the character of mythology, we get a lot of eyebrow raises for sure.
I was about to say, and my stepdad made a joke earlier about it and goes, "So what, is their hit single called May I See the Manager?"
Yeah, we get that. We've heard that one before, I will confess. We named the band. Well, I had nothing to do with it. The original members named the band long before Karens and Chads were ever really a thing. So
Fair enough. But you know what? We're not here to talk about the name. We're here to talk about something even bigger than that. I hope to God I say it right. Titan Maki. No, damn it. Titanomachy?
Titanomachy.
Titanomachy. We're here to talk
That's
about
it.
Titanomachy, your brand new album, which came out today. And
Betcha.
how exciting is that to have this album finally out into the world for everyone to finally hear?
Oh, it's huge, man. We actually talked about this kind of story when we did our live stream event a couple nights ago. But we've had this album in the can for about a year, since about this time last year, and we had some pretty cool shows lined up in kind of November. Not allowed to talk about them in case they get rescheduled, but we had some really awesome shows planned for November. So the objective was to finish the album and get it released and kind of promoted before those bigger shows in the fall. And then of course COVID came and kind of screwed that whole thing up for everybody. So we've kind of just been sitting on this album and shopping it around to kind of figure out what the best approach was in terms of putting it out. And we've teamed up with an outfit called Slip Trick Records. They're out of Latvia, and so they've helped us kind of get it to this point. So the album's being released under their umbrella, under their roster, and we're super stoked. I mean, it's a real challenge putting out a record in the middle of a pandemic, and if you don't have some label backing, it can be almost impossible. So we're very happy to have them. And it's exciting, man. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. So,
Yeah, no. Well, I was actually surprised when you said that the record label was in Latvia because I figured it was an out western thing because I knew Hyperia, if I'm not mistaken, is also signed to them as well.
yes, sir. Yeah. They have a few Canadian bands. Hyperia, formerly from Calgary, now they're in Vancouver. Mongol, which is one of our fellow Edmonton bands, they were signed to Slip Trick as well. So kitty. So yeah, we have a few. There's a few kind of Western Canadian acts on Slip Trick, but no, they're based out of Latvia, and they kind of specialize in the European, particularly the Eastern European market, which was something that we had never really ventured towards before. But as we were doing this, we figured, well, we can't play locally. We can't really play domestically at all. And we kind of have some local representation in terms of kind of spreading the word about the record here. So we wanted to sort of push it a little more in the European market because, let's face it, as much as we love our local metal community, playing the style of music that we play, Europe's really the hotbed for it, and that's really where the majority of the worldwide fans are. So we figured, what would it hurt? Let's try to get on with a European label and see what we can do.
Of course. No, but that's still amazing though to be signed to just something like that. That has to be pretty cool.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. Definitely, it's my first label experience, and all the boys in the band, it's their first label experience. So it's been very exciting. It was a good email to get that they were interested in working with us. So.
And now let's talk more about this album. There's currently one single out.
Yeah.
Well, one single that was out for the longest time, and that was Atlas Endures. And
Yes,
there's
sir.
5 tracks off of this album that has come out today. And I gotta know, what made Atlas Endures that single that you knew was going to be the one to carry it before everyone else heard your creation?
Yeah, it was a pretty difficult decision, to be honest, but we were able to narrow it down. I mean, there's 5 songs on the record. One of them, the third song, Sentinels of Stone, is a song that anybody who's been to a Tides of Kharon show in the recent past has heard, because that song has been a staple in our live set for quite a while. And there's a couple other tracks on the record that we had performed live just as kind of testers a couple of times. But then there was 2 songs, the first song being Atlas Endures, and the last song we've never performed live before at all. And that was kind of one of the criteria for the first single. We wanted to give people something that they've never heard before, whether they've seen the band in the past or not. We wanted to give them something completely fresh. And it just kind of fits the mold. Like it hits hard right from the beginning. And we really wanted something that would, captivate the audience. And we feel like that song really encompasses kind of the sound of the whole record, in that one song. So we felt it was a really good first taste.
Awesome. Now, when it came to ordering like each song in the order that it's in from 1 to 5, how difficult of a decision was it to decide which one was the first song on the album, or what song would begin and which song would end?
For this record, it really wasn't that difficult, to be honest. Like these songs really flow very well in this order. Again, having Sentinels of Stone, that long time live tune we've been playing right in the middle, was a great way to kind of break up the new stuff. If we're gonna have a song that people have heard before, let's smack it right in the middle, right? I don't know, this album. I mean, I've made quite a few records in my career, and there's been times where it's a really complicated issue and a big debate amongst the bandmates and whatnot. But for this record, it really wasn't. It kind of just flowed that way.
Awesome. And that, I guess as a musician, that's kind of a hard thing to really get, where you just know which song gets placed where in an album.
Yeah, and it can be. That's the thing. And like, there's always kind of a lot of people say there's no right answer, but I mean, I think there is. And you gotta really be able to step outside the perspective of a member of the band and somebody who wrote the songs, and say, like, if I was just a fan listening to this record, what would I want to hear? And that's kind of the way we have to do it.
Of course. Now, I'm a big guy when it comes to merchandise. I think a lot of metal people are, because merchandise is a huge factor in the whole scheme of things, whether it be t-shirts, CDs, or in your case scenario, really cool aprons to wear in the kitchen.
You bet.
What kind of... I saw the video of you basting that turkey the other day.
Right on. Yeah, no,
so I just got in.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask what inspired to make the physical cooking aprons part of the merchandise.
Here in Alberta, in a little town called Drumheller, down in southern Alberta, there's a big festival called Loud as Hell, and next to Armstrong Metal Fest, it's probably the biggest metal festival in Western Canada. And we've been very fortunate to be a part of that festival a couple of times now. And the last time the festival ran, aside from the COVID cancellations of the last couple of years, we were on it. And what they do is they start the show really early in the morning there. At like 10 or 11, the first bands go on, and there's like a big pancake breakfast that they put on for everybody. So the last time we played, we ended up getting one of these slots during the pancake breakfast, and we were just looking for some merch items to put on the table as a festival exclusive kind of thing. And that's where the aprons came about, because we brought those aprons to the show, and we made sure the folks at Loud as Hell were super gracious, and they allowed us to, give away these aprons to all the people that were going to be cooking the pancake breakfast. So the whole crew that was cooking and serving the breakfast were wearing our aprons, and it was just kind of a fun festival piece of merch.
That is probably one of the cooler stories I've heard about something behind merchandise. I think that's really cool.
No, it was fun. It was fun. Those guys at Loud as Hell are super cool. They treat us well. So we had to do a little something for sure.
Of course. Now, as our country is kind of in a very fun situation, I like to say, where we all are just having a grand old
It's a
time.
polite way to say it, yeah.
I try and be positive over it, but it's hard to each and every For you personally, as a musician, I guarantee it's probably playing live at concerts and just being interactive with your fans. But besides that, what do you miss most about, life?
I don't know, man. It's been a roller coaster, like I'm pretty busy with music usually. Like Tides of Kharon's not my only band. I play in 2 other bands on top of Tides of Kharon, and so I do session gigs playing drums as well and stuff. So I'm pretty busy usually. So when COVID first hit, it was kind of bittersweet because I don't get to play the gigs and do all this stuff that I love to do, and it really put some dampers into making records and releasing records. But releasing records it dampened. Making records you could still do. But it was kind of nice to have a bit of a break. But the novelty of relaxation wore off relatively quick for me. And I guess, so I mean, by and large, that's kind of what I miss is just like the work ethic that comes along with the daily grind of like doing what we do and working hard to do it. There's a lot of bands that have done exceptionally well and like kept themselves active and kept themselves moving through all of this stuff. But man, when you don't have that next gig to prep for, or that record you're putting out, or all these different things that you work hard towards, it's really tough to keep a fire lit under your ass and really do the work to the full extent that you usually would. So I used to pride myself on being a bit of a workaholic with this stuff, and that's unfortunately slipped a little bit over the last year and a half. But it'll come back,
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to when it comes back.
For sure.
Yeah. This next one is a bit more about not the band, but the province of Alberta in general, because I don't know why, but the more I dig deep into your province's metal scene, the more unique and odd bands I just seem to find. You with Greek mythology, Mongol with the Mongolian influences, Death God with the Native American influences, Siren with the pirate influences. Like, what's just sparking this uniqueness in the Alberta metal scene where all the bands are trying more different influences in their metal?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess I've never really thought of it that way. It's a cool thing though. I mean, I think it's just most of the bands you just listed, I mean, with the exception of Mongol, because they've been around for a really long time. But a lot of the bands are a little bit newer. They're not new bands, but they're, less than 10 years old in most cases, right? I think people are just kind of getting bored of doing the same thing. I mean, the music scene really goes in cycles, and for a while there, it was really difficult to find a new band coming out of Edmonton that wasn't like a cookie cutter brutal death metal fan. No disrespect to any of those bands, but I mean they're death metal bands. Mm-hmm. And Calgary had the same thing with thrash metal bands. And I love death metal and I love thrash metal, but I mean you can only saturate a city so much, and that's why I also play in a local band here that's a little bit on the thrashy side, Tessitura. And we've always had really good success in Calgary, kind of for that reason, because they really like their thrash down there, and then death metal bands come up to Edmonton and they do really well here, right? So I think people are just looking for different ways to go about things. And I know when the boys started Tides of Kharon, because I'm not an original member, but when they started Tides of Kharon, they were kind of pulling from their influences, and a lot of the bands. I mean, if you've heard Tides of Kharon, you know that like Amon Amarth is our primary influence. So I
would have never guessed.
Oh, really? No, we're all about Amon Amarth, and so like their primary, they wanted to take those kind of Scandinavian death metal influences. But I mean, you're not going to rip off the Viking or the Norse thing because that's been done so many times. So they took a different direction. And I mean, yeah, all the bands you listed, they're definitely doing something cool. They have a theme. They have a bit of a gimmick, for lack of a better term. And I think it's great, man. I think you need that. If you're just going to try to do it with like no vision and no direction and no kind of theme, you're starting a bit of an uphill battle at that point. So having that theme is really important, I think.
Oh, of course. No, you're completely right, because even here in Southern Ontario, with Toronto and then every other city, it's very hard just to find those unique bands, because you have a huge chunk of it just being death or thrash, and everything else is like, oh wait, there's a black metal band in Toronto? This is interesting.
Yeah, and when bands do kind of break the mold and go a little bit off the beaten path, like they see pretty good success just because it's different. I know there's a band called File Thingor out of Calgary. They're a great little 3-piece black metal band, and they do it really well. And there's not that many like classic corpse paint wearing black metal bands around here, so they do exceptionally well just because they're unique, as well as being a wicked band. They have that uniqueness to them, and there's a lot of examples of that. I mean, anything with clean vocals, you're kind of a bit of a step in the right direction, because finding a good clean vocalist around here, especially a male clean vocalist, is next to impossible. I mean, I don't envy anybody trying to start a power metal band in this part of Canada, because there's just no vocalists.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really crazy. But then again, here in Ontario, I don't even think we have that many like power metal bands, except maybe Crimson Shadows, that are known and popular. But besides that, like.
Yeah, no, there's a few around here. Most of them are female fronted, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those chicks do an awesome job. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but just like to find, there's not a lot of guys that want to sing high. It's just not a thing around here for some, or are able to. There's a band called Riot City out of Calgary that has a unbelievably good singer, and they kind of do like a classic heavy metal kind of Judas Priesty thing, and that guy's got pipes, but I mean they're few and far between, man. They're few and far between.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, as you mentioned a bit earlier, you did talk about a live stream Tides of Kharon did the other day. How did that go?
It went awesome, man. We were so pumped. We really didn't know what to expect out of it. We've never done something like this before, and it was we had no expectations basically, and we were so pumped. We normally we have the record coming out today here, so we would normally have played a show, either like maybe a couple shows. We probably would have played Edmonton and Calgary last weekend or this coming weekend to kind of celebrate that release, right? Well, we didn't have that option, so we had to do something though. We didn't just want to put out the album and say, here you go. So we tried this live stream thing, and to avoid any kind of technical issues, because we've never done it before, we opted to actually pre-record the show. So we actually played the set a couple weeks ago, and then we streamed it just this past Saturday. And then we had a little event we deemed Talk, where we, right after the live stream show, we sat down here in the studio, three of us in the band, and we just drank beer and chatted with some of our fans and our followers, and we had a good little Q&A session for a couple hours, and it was a really fun time, man. A lot of laughs, and yeah, we had a ton of people tune in for the live stream, which was really great and humbling, and yeah, we couldn't have asked for better.
Awesome. Glad to hear it went so well. Now back to the album. I got two more questions about that, and then one fun question for you that I think you'll like. Sweet. When it came to the designing of the album artwork, because I gotta say this, I don't think that it shouldn't. Words are hard. English is difficult.
It is.
The album artwork is simply beautiful. It is eye-catching. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, yes, this is an album I need one day. This is an album I'm gonna need.
That's great.
When it came to designing the album, what all was the initial idea, and who ended up being the mastermind that came up with it?
Well, the whole concept of Titanomachy was come up, like this concept for the album was kind of come up with by our vocalist Garrett Nelson. He's the lyricist of the band, so it was kind of his concept, and it's based on Titanomachy, the myth in Greek mythology, of course, and it's based upon an epic 10-year series of battles between the Olympians and the Titans. And it's a very epic story, a lot of bloodshed, like about as epic as a battle that you can imagine in mythology. And so we really wanted to try to capture that vastness in the artwork. And the original plan, and actually most people who've just seen the artwork haven't actually seen the full artwork itself. Like, you've seen the album cover, which is kind of like a cropping of the middle piece of the artwork, but the full artwork is big. It's like 3 frames long, right? So you have to buy the physical disc to get that full artwork. But it basically, we tried in so many ways to encapsulate visually that battle, and I mean, without it looking too crazy and too busy and too playing tricks on your eyes with just a million things going on. We really wanted to try to capture that battle. So, I mean, right at the front, you got Zeus, who is the leader of the Olympians or the gods, and Kronos, who's the leader of the Titans. They're kind of front and center, sort of, duking it out. And then you just got a big battle scene in the background. So we're pretty stoked on how it turned out. Joseph Knight, who's a British graphic artist, was the guy who ended up doing it for us. So shout out to him. You can check him out on DeviantArt, I think is where he kind of bases out of mostly. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I mean, we've gotten a lot of good feedback for it. We've gotten a lot of Amonomarthy kind of comments out of it. So we're happy with that.
I see. No, well, now you sold one CD to me. I will buy it as soon as I know when do they come out?
Well, they're out today. The label is shipping them out. We have yet to receive ours, unfortunately, yet. Some COVID-related delays and whatnot, shipping nowadays. But if people are interested in purchasing the album physically or digitally, we have a Bandcamp set up for the digitals, and we have a Big Cartel site set up for all the physical stuff. So everything does officially drop today. As soon as it's in our hands, we'll be shipping all that out. We've been collecting pre-orders for the past few weeks, so we have a lot to ship out. As soon as they're in our hands, we'll be sending those out.
Okay, I'll make sure to get mine in before it's too late.
Perfect. Appreciate it, man.
For you, with this album now out today, looking back at all the fun times, rough times, difficult times, and just the interesting times when it came to creating it, whether it be at the beginning or now at the end, for you, which moment are you most proud of throughout the entire album process?
Oh man, that's a tough one. As the drummer, I think this album is some of the best work I personally have ever done. Me and my engineer Greg Wright really put our heads down and got some amazing sounds. He really knows how to get the best out of me. So, listening back to the drumming specifically on this record, I'm super proud of that. Like I said, some of my most complicated, interesting stuff that I've done was captured. So I'm super stoked on that. But the album as a whole, it really doesn't have much to do with me, but I mean, it sounds so good and I'm so happy with it. And even, from an outsider perspective, and this is going to be very biased, but I mean it really from the heart. If I was just listening to the record as a fan, I would love it. I think the songs are excellent. I think Mike Burton did an excellent job on the mix and the master. Like, it sounds huge. It sounds awesome. Overall, man, I mean, this is my probably my most proud musical endeavor to date for myself personally.
Awesome. And now, one last question for you. We asked this to all of our first-time appearing guests as a fun little test your metal kind of question. So, hope you're ready to dig deep and find out that metal knowledge.
We'll try.
Who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God?
Whew. How many Jack and Cokes deep is Lemmy during this fight?
I'm going to say he had to put down his 6 right when God walked in.
Okay, he got his 6 in. It'd be a toss-up. But you know what? I'd probably have to say Lemmy because he's a gambling man and he doesn't like to lose. So he would persevere. And we all know from his lifestyle that he lived and how long he lived in that lifestyle. He's not easy to take down. So I would say Lemmy would take it.
That's correct.
Good.
I like how in depth you went with the answer, though. Like, you needed to know how far in he was.
Yeah, that's something that doesn't go without a little thought, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Gord, thank you so much for coming on today. I know you're probably swamped with a bunch of band stuff to do to help promote this album today, but I greatly appreciate your time. Is there anything else you want to say to everyone watching this on YouTube?
Not too much, man. Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. Everybody, please go and check out the first single, Atlas Endures. If you do like it, we have a music video out for it. It's on YouTube. I don't know if it'll be linked to this or whatever, but check that out. If you like it, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it if you could give the album a bit of a spin. If you like it, please buy it. We could really use that support. If you missed our live stream last weekend, be patient, please. It will be on YouTube within the next week or so. So you'll be able to watch that full show on YouTube as well in the coming days. Other than that, man, we're stoked to have the album out. Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to talk to you, Gord. And until next time, everyone, keep on thrashing.